And we are live. Welcome everybody to another just in here, just kind of like going over what I have, what kind of shows I'm into right now, what kind of movies I'll be watching or I have on my games as well. Just kind of gives me an opportunity to kind of share with you guys. Did not have a game Friday Night Fights, but I did have a ton of stuff that I wanted to go over with you guys. Um, in regards to shows, movies. The first thing I kind of wanted to discuss with you guys was the season three Mandalorian show finale. I don't know how you guys are feeling about it, or you guys finished watching it. For those of you who have been saving it for the weekend and are kind of binge watch maybe the episodes, or maybe just watch the eighth and final episode, then basically this spoiler warning. But other than that, uh, where do we go? So season three started out actually pretty good. I like kind of where some of the storylines were going. Um, some of the stuff that I liked was the remnants of the Empire and how they kind of had these sleeper cells in different parts of the galaxy that they could activate at any reporting back. As we found out towards the latter part of the series, they were reporting back to Moth Gideon and a couple of other leaders that basically are still, I guess, form their own resistance now that the Empire is no longer. So they had that one episode where they had that planet filled with people from the Empire that were basically rehabilitated. You might say they had the scientists there, the cloning scientists. Where he ends up being tricked, going outside of the facility, and then he is basically captured by that same person that lured him out there, and he has uh, mind fried. I think they were trying to just rehabilitate him or maybe even kind of adjust him, but the officer, the female officer that kind of had the short haircut, um, ended up just frying his brain at the end. Um, but it was a good episode in that it seemed like they were setting up something, something where if they would have had a nice maybe like 10 or 12 episodes uh, season, they probably would have had time to kind of flesh it out and follow through on what they were setting up. These remnants, this like I said, like these kind of like cells. Um, so that was a good episode. Kind of again to kind of get everything jump started. Um, I like the idea of taking a small microcosm, uh, one specific example of what was going on, the rehabilitation center, everything people were going through, but still kind of wanting to do their own thing. Some of them still feeling like that life on Empire was a lot better than where they were currently. And it was a nice setup to kind of like things to come. And the other episode that kind of built upon that was the first kind of like action packed, heavy on the CGI and action sequences was, I think it was like episode 5 or 6, the one where it had all the cameos. You had Jack Black, you had Lizzo, you had what's his name, Lloyd Bridges from Back to the Future. So you had a bunch of different stars from shows and making their own appearances. But the main thing about the episode that I liked was this, again, this remnant of the Empire wanting to cause chaos, inflicting the robots in this outer rim planet with with this program to basically make them attack humans, basically create this whole uh, network of additional sleeping splinter cells of robotic uh, um, I guess you could say like robotic pawns that they kind of activate at the moment to do their bidding, and that was pretty cool. I like that idea a lot because again, if you take that in combination with uh, the rehabilitation planet, people being brought back in the fold, being rehabilitated, being mind swiped, being kind of like just made to go along. Uh, the new government, and then add on top of it this additional planet where the guy was basically doing something similar, but with androids and robots and what have you. Again, you start kind of building on that whole idea that although the rebellion had conquered the day and they had basically brought back I guess, a democratic government to the galaxy, the remnants of the empire were not completely gone. Still a lot of cells out and that were working some kind of cohesion um, to basically get back into power. And again, if they would have had a full, like I said, like maybe like 11 or 12 episodes, they probably could have dived a little bit deeper into that. Um, but trying to combine that on top of the other main, basically reclaiming Mandalore, which was a huge story plot, obviously, right from the beginning. You had Mando going back to Mandalore, going underground, finding the waters in order to basically be able to put his mask back on, considered full Mandalore. And again, that was one of the main plot throughout the whole season. And I think I felt like they had to kind of pick or choose which one to do if they were only, because I think 8 episodes, and again, they just like any other series, they still had their filler episodes, so it's kind of weird to have. It was kind of weird to have filler episodes in 8 episodes, and then two main storylines, main uh, plots that had to be moved forward. You only had eight. Again, reclaiming Mandalore to me always seemed very out there, very extreme. So kind of like, okay, so if you're gonna reclaim Mandalore, it's something where it's gonna take you uh, maybe multiple episodes or maybe even multiple series. I always thought like they would set it up in season 3, maybe wrap it up in a Bo-Katan spin-off series by itself, and that would have been cool. You could do 10 episodes of Mandalorian, just kind of setting up the arc for them to go to the planet, setting up the behind the scenes remnants of the Empire for the Ahsoka series, and what's it, Tron's Return. So all of that would have been awesome if they would have gone that route, and they could still have done what it looks like their intention was with this season was to basically retire the Mandalorian or Din Djarin, uh, because it seems a lot of people are saying that he kind of took a big step back in this season, even though it is the Mandalorian show, and um, Din Djarin has been our main protagonist throughout the first 2 seasons. The fact that Pedro Pascal has gone on to bigger and brighter things. You hear on the internet and a lot of other sites report that he went on, obviously, to The Last of Us, a great show that I like. Um, Played the game, both of them, loved both of the game, loved the show. It was just awesome to kind of see the game realized in different medium, and it didn't change too much, so I liked it as well. But again, Pedro Pascal being able to just be himself without armor, being able to promote himself for, again, if he wants movies and what have you, it's probably better for him to fully on play without all the armor, able to take the mask off, whatever he wanted to. Um, Word is that The Last of Us hired him for about 600K, 100,000 per episode. It's I mean, you can't blame a guy. That type of money, again, I don't know how much he was getting paid for the Mandalorian, but again, it's probably a lot less than that, and he doesn't get to promote himself because all we see is kind of like the Mandalorian, the armor, the helmet, and once in a blue moon he takes that off. But by being one of the main protagonists in The Last of Us, he actually gets to promote his brand um, a lot more. When you think about it, Mandalorian, we kind of knew like he's the star. We see him like in maybe one or two episodes taking off the mask, but in The Last of Us, he's front and center basically. And now I'm thinking he's gonna get probably a lot more roles now that he has been again no mask and just being able to act and be himself. And he was great in it. He made a great Joel. So kudos to him. But the word on the street is basically that Disney basically saw this coming. Even for season 3, he didn't really. He is no longer playing the Mandalorian, which he had in prior seasons, and there's other people basically doing the armor parts, acting it out, and then Pedro Pascal just basically voice acts the what happens. And again, the voice acting, he can basically step into a studio no matter where he's shooting a series from and go ahead and do his lines. And obviously, Disney will just put it all together. But again, you can't blame him for it. And if he's making that much more money, but again, him leaving obviously means that Disney wasn't going to want to make him the front and center star, knowing that their main protagonist, their main actor, it would kind of be like phoning it in, you know. So you got the sense throughout the season that they had probably uh, bigger, brighter hopes and expectations for the season, but due to real world constraints, the actor, the studio, and what have you, they ended up having to go a different route. You did see more of an importance placed on Bo-Katan, which I think was part of it was probably always going to be part of the series. I don't think that's something that was just going to be an isolated event. I thought that was always going to be, despite whether Pedro Pascal had got another a gig or not, I think that was probably going to be um, something that the show was going to end up doing anyways because she is a main part in the Clone Wars. She is a big character when it comes to the Filoni universe. So she was going to play an integral part, but I know I never thought the Mandalorian would basically take a backseat own show. It almost felt like to me, guys, like if you remember how excited we were all for the Book of Boba Fett and how much that show sucked, and then how I don't know. I think it was Hail Plush. Hope you're doing well, man. Thanks for checking out the channel. But yeah, so basically, as like I was saying, I think you have a series and you have a show and you have these constraints on them and basically had to make the moves that they did. Um, get to a certain point where I think like no matter what they did, obviously Bo-Katan was always going to be a little bit front and center. Um, but was Din Djarin gonna be made to play like this backseat character, kind of like he did to Boba Fett, like I was saying, in his series. I was excited for that series. I was excited for Boba Fett to break out on his own, especially with the action that we saw and the Boba Fett that we saw in season 2 of The Mandalorian. It was quite exciting to think of like what the possibilities would be, but then again, it just ended up being this show where he was outshined by multiple characters. I don't even think it was just Din Djarin. If you go back and you watch Boba Fett, uh, he was basically outshined by by my point of view by Finnick Chan. A lot of the time, it just seemed like I growing up, you always saw Star Wars movies and you saw Jabba the Hutt and Crime Syndicate, and you always thought they were dangerous. This some kind of backwater planet. gangsters, what have you, super dangerous. But in the show Boba Fett, it just seems like they was ruled by a bunch of incompetent people that an incompetent Boba Fett could come along and basically take over. And when he messed up, Finnick Shen basically just kind of bailed him out. There was parts of the show where I was kind of wondering, like, what the hell is going on? Like, why doesn't she just take over? Because it seems like he doesn't know what to do. There'd be parts like he was just so inept or didn't know what to do, or he would be beaten up by like hold on a second, guys. Let me pause momentarily. Take a drink. Hold on. Let me just quick pause.